Did you know that for the Big Lebowski, before filming a scene, Jeff Bridges would frequently ask the Coen brothers, did the dude burn one on the way over? If they said he had, he would rub his knuckles in his eyes before doing a take to make his eyes appear bloodshot. 2. A lot of the dude's clothes in the movie were Jeff Bridges' own clothes, including his jelly sandals, which he still owns and uses to this day. 3. John Goodman stated that the dude referring to the Big Lebowski as a human paraquat was one of the only improvised lines to make it into the final film. Virtually every other line, including every man and dude, was scripted. 4. While being a member of the bowling team, the dude is never seen bowling throughout the movie. 5. In an early draft of the script, the dude's source of income was revealed. He was heir to the inventor of the Rubik's Cube, which would have also made him Hungarian in turn. It was Joel Coen's idea to drop this and never say. 5. The dude says man 147 times in the movie, nearly 1.5 times per minute. Did you know for Back to the Future 2, it was claimed at the time that in the 4 years since Back to the Future was made, Michael J. Fox had forgotten how to ride a skateboard. However, motor skills are not so easily lost as in riding a bicycle, and Michael J. Fox has since stated that in hindsight, he realized this was an early symptom of his Parkinson's disease, of which the medical diagnosis was not made until 1991. 2. This was the first film appearance by Elijah Wood. He plays one of the 2 video game boys to whom Marty speaks in the Cafe 80s near the start of the film. 3. The ledge on the clock tower that Doc broke in Back to the Future is still broken in 2015. 4. According to Michael J. Fox, he found out there was going to be a sequel to Back to the Future when he watched the VHS version, and the words "to be continued" were added at the end. He immediately called his agent to make sure he was going to be in the sequel. 5. Robert Zemeckis had said that he really did not want the movie to take place in the future. That is because he felt that every time that a movie takes place in the future, it is mispredicted. 6. Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale have admitted that they were originally not interested in doing a sequel, and that the open ending of the first movie was simply meant as a final joke. Did you know that the plot for The Hangover was based on a true story? It happened to Trip Vinson, a producer and friend of executive producer Chris Bender. Vinson had gone missing from his own Las Vegas bachelor party, blacking out and waking up in a strip club being threatened with a very, very large bill I was supposed to pay. 2. Mike Tyson originally refused to appear in the film, but he changed his mind when he found out that Todd Phillips directed Old School, which Tyson liked. 3. Zach Galifianakis said he tried to forbid his own mother from seeing the film, and that he yells at parents of kids who tell him they like it. 4. During blackjack, Alan splits a pair of 5s, which is widely seen as a bad move. The dealer announces this move so that the pit boss can hear as it's an unusual play, which hints that Alan is counting cards. 5. The explicit shots in the final photo slideshow, in which his character is seen receiving in an elevator, Zach Galifianakis confirmed that a prosthesis was used for the scene and that he had been embarrassed, saying, "You would think that I wouldn't be the one who was embarrassed, but I really didn't even want it in there. I offered Todd's assistant a lot of money to convince him to take it out of the movie. I did, but it made it in there." Did you know for Fight Club, author Chuck Palahniuk first came up with the idea for the novel after being beaten up on a camping trip when he complained to some nearby campers about the noise of their radio. When he returned to work, he was fascinated to find that nobody would mention or acknowledge his injuries, instead saying such commonplace things as, "How was your weekend?" Palahniuk concluded that the reason people reacted this way was because if they asked him what had happened, a degree of personal interaction would be necessary, and his workmates simply didn't care enough to connect with him on a personal level. It was his fascination with this societal blocking which became the foundation for the novel. 2. Brad Pitt and Helena Bonham Carter spent 3 days recording climax sounds for their unseen sex scenes. 3. Brad Pitt says he did not want his parents to see the movie, but he could not convince them not to watch it. They changed their minds after watching the chemical burn scene. 4. Brad Pitt was paid $17.5 million for his part in the film. Edward Norton was paid $2.5 million. Did you know for Inception, if you take the first letters of the main characters' names, Dom, Robert, Eames, Arthur, Mal, and Sato, they spell dreams. If you add Peter, Ariadne, and Yusuf, the whole makes dreams pay, which is what they do for a mind thief. 2. Sir Christopher Nolan explained that he based roles of the Inception team similar to roles that are used in filmmaking. Cobb is the director, Arthur is the producer, Ariadne is the production designer, Eames is the actor, Saito is the studio, and Fisher is the audience. In trying to write a team-based creative process, I wrote the one I know, said Nolan. 3. Joseph Gordon-Levitt went to his audition after a brief character summary, wearing a full suit just in case, unknowingly matching his character's wardrobe perfectly. 4. Leonardo DiCaprio was the only choice for the role of Cobb for writer, producer, and director, Sir Christopher Nolan and producer Dame Emma Thomas. 5. In an effort to combat confusion, television broadcasts in Japan include text in the upper left corner of the screen to remind viewers in which level of the dream a specific scene takes place. Did you know for Blade Runner 2049, as seen in this movie, the baseline test that K must recite back, a system of cells interlinked within cells interlinked, was Ryan Gosling's idea. He employed an acting technique called dropping in, which induced a trance-like and hypnotic effect on his performance. 2. Harrison Ford accidentally punched Ryan Gosling in the face when they were acting out a fight scene. However, the error lies squarely on Gosling, who misplaced his head. Both actors laughed it off and later shared a bottle of scotch over the incident. 3. David Bowie was director Denis Villeneuve's first choice for the role of Neander Wallace, but he died 6 months before the start of shooting. Jared Leto was cast instead because of his similar rock star vibe, since he fronts the rock band 30 Seconds to Mars. 4. Initially, Denis Villeneuve was against the concept of a sequel to Blade Runner, as he felt it could violate the original. However, after reading the script, which he and Harrison Ford have described as one of the best they had ever read, he committed to the project. Did you know for The Revenant, Tom Hardy said that Leonardo DiCaprio bet that Hardy would get nominated for an Oscar for his role in this film, whereas Hardy thought otherwise. The wager was that the loser would be forced to get a tattoo of the winner's choice. It turned out that DiCaprio was right, and the choice of tattoo was a hand-scribed "Leo Knows All" by DiCaprio. 2. Leonardo DiCaprio chose to devour a raw slab of bison's liver, even though he is vegetarian. He also had to learn to shoot a musket, build a fire, speak 2 Native American languages, and study with a doctor who specializes in ancient healing techniques. DiCaprio calls it the hardest performance of his career. 3. The director and cinematographer planned to only shoot with natural light to maximize realism. As a result, they only had a few shooting hours per day and had to be carefully planned in advance. The only time they didn't use natural light was a campfire scene. 4. Due to production being behind schedule, the snow melted during the location shoot in Canada before filming was complete. With summer rapidly approaching, there was no choice but to relocate the entire production to southern Argentina, where there were similar wintry conditions. Did you know that for I Am Legend, Will Ferrell grew so close to his canine co-star Abby that he tried to adopt her when filming was finished, but the dog's trainer could not be persuaded to give her up. 2. Will Smith talked to former prisoners to get an understanding of what it's like to be totally alone. The prisoners told Smith the key to surviving solitary confinement is creating a rigid schedule. 3. While doing a press conference in Japan for the release of this movie, Will Smith accidentally revealed the ending to a collection of entertainment reporters. Warner Brothers asked the reporters and all those present to withhold the ending, and the reporters all obliged without any payoff or consideration. 4. Will Smith said that closing New York City streets to film meant he got a lot of middle fingers. 5. Will Smith met with scientists from the Centers for Disease Control to learn how to use all of the equipment properly. 6. Some of the mannequins in the video store were played by real people. If you look closely in the scene, you can see them move. This was done intentionally to play with the minds of the viewers. 7. The studio spent $5 million for a 6-night shoot in New York City, involving the Brooklyn Bridge. To film in this location, the producers needed the approval of as many as 14 government agencies.